What's going on, guys? So today, this lesson is going to teach you everything you need to know about how to vertically scale your budget on your YouTube campaigns. Now, one of the main benefits of YouTube over Facebook is it's a lot easier to scale. There's a lot less worrying that you have to do about like, hey, if I make this change, is it going to ruin the campaign? That's not nearly as much of an issue on YouTube as it is on Facebook. And also, in order to increase budget on YouTube, once you achieve the higher budgets, it's a lot more stable. Partially, one of the reasons for that is there's a lot less advertisers on YouTube in comparison to Facebook. So there's a lot more room for your products to exist and be being sold at very high budgets. So what I'm going to go into in this video is how to take your winning YouTube campaigns that have shown some performance, and scale them up to higher budgets in a really formulaic way, because people really want to be given a formula for this. So I'm going to show you exactly some numbers that you can use in order to adjust your budgeting in order to scale. So let's jump right into it. So like I said, what we're going to be going over is vertical scaling. Before you scale, and this is extremely important, make sure you have all of your demographics, your devices, and your videos, and your audiences and topics and keywords optimized. You don't want to be scaling a non-optimized campaign. What you want to do is you want to optimize your campaign first, dial in the demographics, dial in your audiences, your topics as much as possible with the data that you have, and then scale. The reason for this is, let's say you were to take this campaign right here. These are just template campaigns, but let's say you were to take this campaign and you had like a few videos under it. So you had like 2 or 3 videos and you just scaled it regardless. One video is doing great. The other 2 are just crappy. At a low level, it's okay. YouTube is maybe pushing your budget all towards the good video, and not much of your budget is going towards the bad videos. What can happen when you scale is, as you increase budget, YouTube will want to test those other videos a little bit more. So you'll notice sometimes when you scale, YouTube will push budget towards some lower performing audiences, topics, videos that you have. So you want to do as much optimization first before you scale. That way, once you hit these higher budgets and things, it's more of like walking a tightrope. YouTube's not going to randomly choose a day to push a ton of your budget towards some lower performing assets. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. It doesn't serve you at all. So optimize things before you scale. This may sound like common sense, but really it's not. You want to optimize your campaigns before you scale them. So rule number 1 with scaling. If you're currently spending beneath $100 a day, you can instantly bump your budget to $100 to start. That can be your first like mini scale. So like, let's say you're running at $20, $30 a day. I'm not going to tell you to increase your budget by $10, 10% or anything ridiculous like that. Go ahead and bump it up to 100. Just make that initial jump. After that, leave it for 48 hours and make sure it stays stable. One thing you'll notice throughout this lesson is that 48 hours is the amount of time I like to pass before I make any additional changes to campaigns. So as I increase budget, I like to do it every 48 hours. So make your initial bump. If you're below 100, you can make that initial bump to 100, assuming that's within your budget, which it should be if you're scaling products, services, or info. Then leave it for 48 hours. Rule number 2, after the campaign is stable at $100 spend, meaning you left it for 48 hours and you are still getting a good cost per conversion, you can then proceed to scale your campaign by $200 a day until it hits that $800 to $1,000 a day price point. And you want to wait 48 hours between these increases. So increase by $200, wait 48 hours. If it's stable, increase by $200 again and wait 48 hours. Now, one thing that's extremely important to know here is when you're looking at the stats. So like, let's go to campaigns real quick. let's say on April 1st, I made a change. I increased budget by $200. What a lot of people do that I see is an error that a lot of people do is they'll look at the last 7 days of data. So like, let's say today's April 3rd, I made the change April 1st. They'll look at like the 28th until the 3rd. The problem with that is you don't want to see all that data. You just want to see the data from when you made that budget increase, because you only want to see what happened after you made that change. So what you actually want to do is just go from the 1st, which is the day you made the budget increase, and look until now. That's how you judge if your budget increases have messed with your stats at all, is by looking at the time from when you made that budget change till now. So that's extremely important, and a lot of people skip over that. Rule number 2, rule number 2, like special scenarios, you can experiment with larger budget increases. Now, this is going to be very niche dependent. It's going to be industry dependent. It's going to depend on how big your audience sizes are. If you're doing like really open targeting, or if you're doing more narrow topics and audiences targeting. If you want to be conservative with your budget, stay with this rule. This is only after you have used this rule a few times. You're very profitable. You know what you're doing. You have a bunch of conversions. Then you can start seeing how much you can increase budget by and getting away with it. And this is really just kind of a Hail Mary thing you kind of have to do. It's going to depend on your industry. It's going to depend on so many different things that you really just have to test it. What do I mean by this? What does this look like in practice? You can do more aggressive increases. So you can just double budget. So go from $100 a day, $100 every 48-hour increase to $200 to $400 to $800. Or you can even do like what I do in a lot of pay-per-lead campaigns. Start campaigns off at like $50, $60 a day. Once they prove themselves, bump them up to $500. And in some niches it works, in some niches it does not work. But you have to test it. And after you test it and you kind of know how it works for your niche based upon there's a lot of different metrics that can affect it. Your audience size, how big your reach is, and basically how much frequency you're going to be hitting that group of people with. But you can increase budget pretty massively and still have a lot of success with it. But you just have to test it out. Again, only do this after you do it more conservatively. Rule number 3, after you hit the $1,000 a day mark, you're spending $1,000 a day, you can then increase your campaign budget by 10 to 15% every 48 hours. Now, there is an exception to this. A lot of campaigns, $1,000 a day mark is like a good like stable point, and then you want to go slow from there. If you have a product or service that is really broad, meaning a lot of people would be interested in or buying your services, and you're using very broad audience sizes, as in you might even be doing like open targeting all of the United States for this product or service that you're selling. In those cases where you have a lot more room to scale, a lot more prospective buyers, you don't have to start slowing down at 1,000. You can start doing budget increases by like 500. You can even do budget increases by 1,000 depending on how much room you have. In a lot of industries, 1,000 is going to be that point where you want to start going a little bit slower and slowly scale from there. But if you have a massive, really wide industry, you can keep doing larger budget increases past 1,000. You don't have to slow down at 1,000. In fact, you can start picking up after 1,000. Again, this is industry specific. You just have to keep an eye on your stats. Look at what happens to your stats after you hit 1,000. Look at what these small budget increases do. If everything is green, I would at least a couple times test doing larger budget increases. See how it works in your industry for your product. If it works, then awesome. You can continue to do larger budget increases. So, rule number 4, keep a change log in a Google Sheet. This is absolutely crucial. Here's a basic setup that I have. Campaign name, changes made, date to check next. This is really important because then you just reference today's date. You control F it, and then you can find exactly what campaigns you need to be checking today based upon the last changes. This is so crucial. If you're not doing this, you're not going to be able to scale YouTube campaigns reliably. I don't care how good your memory is. I don't care how many nootropics you're on to increase your memory. If you are not doing this, you're going to be too disorganized and you're going to forget to check campaigns, and it's going to be absolute chaos. So always keep a change log of when you actually make changes to your campaigns. Rule number 5, if a budget increase takes your campaign outside of your KPI, reduce your budget to whatever it was before. So if on your change log, you increase the budget by $500 and it just throws everything out of whack, the way you can save that campaign is by reducing the budget back to where it was before. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Sometimes even this will still fail. But a lot of the time, if a budget increase messes up your campaign and throws you outside of KPI, you can decrease your budget back to wherever it was before, and the campaign will stabilize and your cost per conversion should come back into alignment. Rule number 6, don't scale, and this is the final rule, don't scale on days of the week that you know are bad. Meaning, if your niche sucks on weekends and your cost per conversion tends to increase on weekends, don't scale on those days. Because when you go back through your change log and you're looking at your past 48 hours of data, your perception of what happened to your campaign is going to be skewed because you are looking at days that don't really perform anyway. So why would they perform when you increase your budget? It's generally not good to scale on days where performance is generally lower. This is niche dependent. Some niches don't have lower performing days. Some niches do. If your niche is one of the ones that does, only scale your budget on days where that's not going to be an issue. So guys, that's it for how to vertically scale your budget. I hope that was formulaic enough. I hope that really gave you some insight on how to take your winning campaigns and scale them in a way that is repeatable and that is based around the changes in your metrics. And guys, make sure you keep that call log. It's the change log. It's very important. But guys, that's it. If you want to ask me questions about YouTube ads directly, I have a private Facebook group. You can apply for that below, and usually you'll get accepted in 24 to 48 hours, and you can interact with me there. I do live trainings every week in there, and you can directly ask me questions. If you want more one-on-one coaching for your business on how to start and scale with YouTube ads, I have a link beneath this video to schedule a call, so you can schedule a call there. That's it, guys. If you want to watch more of my videos, they're over here to my right, to your left. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you later.